Call to order, 6:01 p.m. Call the audience. I see some unfamiliar faces. Is there anybody who wants to say anything? This is your opportunity. Hello, can you give me your name?
Of course. Hi, I'm Dylan Barton.
And then where are you from?
I'm from the College of Education.
Awesome.
First year.
If you're here to campaign, you're not allowed to?
Nope.
Okay.
Here's my stats class.
Okay, just making sure. Awesome. Welcome. What is it that you would like to say?
Oh, no, just hello and happy to do it.
Awesome. Anything else? Yes?
I'm the secretary since I'm at the top, I don't know the policy audience. I was gonna ask, if anyone had by any chance taken that attendance sheet from the last general council meeting and if it's in anyone's possession or anyone has seen any sight of it in the GPSC office or otherwise, please let me know because it is your attendance I'm trying to track here, and if I don't have the attendance, I won't be able to keep track of it. That's very logical.
I think check your mailbox. I think
Okay.
it's in there. So,
Okay.
anything else?
Good.
Okay, awesome. All right, moving on to the agenda itself. So, approvals, travel grants director, 1718, Jude.
Okay, hi everyone, good evening. Good to see you all again. At this time so our normal practice is to approve hires for GPSC directors, officers positions. But historically, when we have a director or an attempt, if I say that it's typically for 1 year. However, when we have a director or admin person that we believe has done an excellent job in that role and is willing to stay another year, we get to extend their contract by 1 more year. And that's what we're trying to do tonight. Janelle has done an excellent job, in my opinion, as travel grant director, and she has shown interest in wanting to continue in that role for next academic year. As you all know, I think that's best for us at this point because hiring someone new and having to train them all over again, it's going to be very demanding on the next executive. So I'd like to make a motion to extend our contract by 1 additional year.
Second. Is that it?
Any further comments?
That's pretty sweet.
Sounds pretty great. So can I get ayes for extending her contract for another additional year? So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Ayes. Any nays? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. So yes, Janelle has another year on contract. Congratulations, Janelle. The research and the REAP approval. Research and something else.
Research and projects.
Research and project approval. Did everybody get a chance to look at those over on email this afternoon? We're doing part of the round today so that people get their money, and we'll do another part the next meeting. Any questions, comments?
Those are just the ones that Jasmine sent out this afternoon?
Right.
Is that right? Okay. I didn't get a chance to look at them.
Okay.
I second the motion from committee to approve.
All right. Motion seconded. Anybody have anything else to say? Can I get ayes for the partial list? Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 ayes. Any nays?
And can I just say that, thank you for the quick turnaround time?
Any abstentions? So that's 6 abstentions. Awesome. That list is approved. Thanks, REAP. Appropriations Board approval. Storm. Storm, did you want to start with this?
I believe that Jim.
Jim is on Skype right now. He basically says,
I'm not the chair, so I
okay,
think I was.
Jim's saying the appropriations board is working through the final round of applications. At this time, the board recommends approval of the Sports and Entertainment Law Society application for $598. Therefore, I move that the general council approve approval of the Sports and Entertainment Law Society club funding application for $598, and I second that motion.
You can't, sorry, Marie, you can't second a motion that you're reading. Storm?
So I just want to give some insight on the process of the appropriations board, and at this point, just in a little bit more detail. There has been 1 application that we mentioned that has been approved. I'm abstaining from voting on that matter. And there has been 1 application that was approved for $500, but we have an issue that I requested clarification on the club. It is an ASUA recognized club requested, GPSC, special club funding, for an honorarium for a speaker that's coming as part of an event. There's a little bit of ambiguity as to whether or not they should have gone through POD for that, or they should have gone through special club funding. If you look at, our GPSC, like the flow chart that we have, if you follow down the left-hand side, it has like a, you know, if your club recognized, et cetera. And then it says if you're planning some sort of like symposium, they use like 3 words essentially, all are synonyms for one another. It says that if yes, it sends you over to the POD side.
Right.
But if you follow along on that chart, it also says if you're doing an event that provides to the academic, you know, culture of the university or is educational in nature, then you would still be eligible for SCF funding. So there's a little bit of ambiguity. I reached out to Carol, but she wasn't in the office at the time. I also reached out to Sydney Hinsey upstairs in ASUA, because I know that a lot of times she's knowledgeable on these matters. She indicated that essentially what the problem, she indicated that she wasn't sure, and then there was another application that we also had a problem with that I followed up with her. So there's 2 applications that seem to be on the face that we're going to be approving them, and we'll do, it's a matter of, I believe, $500 for each off the top of my head. But there is just this, we have a question we need answered before we can go through with those, unfortunately.
All right, so the question on the first one is, can we pay an honorarium for a speaker out of the club
Out of
funding?
SCF
Out of
club
SCA
funding.
funding? And who's gonna know the answer to that question? Is it just, do we just say,
I feel like we should try and get
Okay.
Carol's off on
and
this.
then, so that's one problematic thing, is there a second problematic?
The second thing is a separate application. It is, I believe, school, it's a, like, public, whatever that, like, government and public policy, there's a particular major I remember. Long story short, the club is applying for T-shirts for membership, which is fine, it's definitely allowed under initial club funding. However, their application indicates that they were going to sell those T-shirts as a fundraising mechanism for the club. Now, it's not explicitly prohibited in our guidelines. Same thing, I called Cindy on this and asked her. She said clubs are not permitted to sell T-shirts for a profit. However, they are permitted to accept donations for T-shirts. So this is kind of a semantics thing, but I think I voted we conditionally approved. They had 2 items. One was like T-shirts, the other was flyers. I said that I moved to approve as long as they modify the application to be clear that they cannot sell these T-shirts. They are permitted to accept a donation amount from the people who request them or their membership. So that's another we need to get. We need to confirm. I think again we'll confirm with Carol that that is the actual policy. Cindy was kind of firing from the hip. She didn't have a policy to be to me because I called her, you know, at last minute. But I think we should get clarification and also communicate that to them. So again, we have the approval, but we just need to take these additional people steps, unfortunately.
Cool. Megan?
Kimberly is probably the,
Oh.
Carol wouldn't know.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that was my
Yeah,
first guess.
Carol probably responds to everything. But Kimberly is the POD person,
Okay.
so, or club and POD. From ASUA clubs, yeah, we can't fund something and then they go back.
Exactly, that's
and,
what I thought.
Yeah, charge for it.
Yeah.
And for the speaker thing, that's a little bit more complicated, so, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, my recommendation would be, I can go back this week into, to see what we funded in the past, by going through like SSF reports and stuff like that, and if we funded schools in the past through SCA funding, I guess so.
Yeah, they're not funding like hotel arrangements or lodging, it's strictly the honorarium, which is, again, it's not, like, that's contemplated in our POD guidelines,
Yeah.
it isn't contemplated in the SCF, but as I said, there's that ambiguity of, like, we are allowed to fund SCF things that are like educational in nature, but at the same time, it would appear that they should be applying to POD.
Doesn't the appropriations board have the ability to just switch the thing or not?
Since I'm not the chair, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, I know they can if it's like a travel grant.
I think on the SCF, it does say that we have the discretion to do so, but
Yeah.
obviously not being the chair, that's not.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so it sounds like those need more clarification before we can pick them up. I don't think, I'm not opposed to conditionally approving them should these things be worked out, however they are worked out by the appropriations board. That's just my first initial reaction. So if they change the T-shirts to donation only, and if we have to move this $500 to POD funding rather than club funding, I'm fine with that. Other thoughts?
I have the specific dollar figures as well. They were both $500 applications. The board, as I said, did approve the $598 for Sports Entertainment Law Society. Again, I'm recusing myself
Alright,
from voting on
so
that.
let's do this. Let's go ahead and approve or vote on that $598 because that one's unambiguously acceptable. How about that?
Seconded.
Okay, so $598 for something amazing, I'm sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 ayes. Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, 2, 3 abstentions. Alright. Okay, so then these other two things, I move that they're conditionally approved if we get this paperwork stuff sorted out. So that would be seeing if the club can actually pay for a speaker, and if not, moving it over to POD. And second, they can't sell t-shirts for a fixed amount, they can ask for donations after, during the thing.
I have one small thing. I remember within one of our last 2 meetings, there was concern that the POD account was running low, and we ran into a problem. We thought for a moment we might have overdrawn the account. So I don't know if we have any clarification on that. Do we know where we're at?
It sounded like after all the dust settled, we had at least $2,000 left, and if that's a $500 application.
Okay. I just don't want us to get in that same position.
Yeah.
Alright. I think if such a position would happen, we can just simply say we don't actually have any more money for this particular thing. The appropriations board can figure that out when they're, does that make sense to everybody? So that was the motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, so approving conditionally these 2 additional applications. 1, if they take donations for t-shirts rather than charging for them, and 2, if we figure out whether club or POD has to fund honorarium for speakers. Can I get ayes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 ayes. Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay. 2. Okay. Now on to the rest of the agenda. So, is everyone clear on how the elections update is going down? We've
I can step in if you want.
Danielle.
Can you pull up the email that Alma just sent?
Okay.
I know that everybody won't have had time to read this. Alma sent an email to the executive board. She requested that 2 other members of the executive board sign on to an advisory opinion request regarding the recently passed term limits. Just questioning how the Supreme Court sees how they apply. So if you scroll down, the opinion from the Supreme Court was provided to you all. Basically what they said is it applies to current members for their previous terms as well as moving forward. So if you've served for 5 or more years, you will not be eligible to run. Candidates were announced today, but I do think the email that Alma sent, she's going to be contacting candidates because I think some people will be eligible to run as a result of this now. So she will be sending an email out to candidates to notify them that they will not be able to. If you have any questions about election stuff specifically, please email Alma. If you have questions about the language of this opinion specifically, please email supremecourt@email.arizona.edu.
That's the clerk's address.
That's the clerk's address.
Please email
Let me
only.
double-
Please email only the clerk of the Supreme Court. Not allowed to email anybody else.
No, I can double confirm.
Okay.
Hold on one second.
But it's probably right.
I think so. I've checked it.
Just make sure you're emailing the clerk at the court. Alright.
It is Supreme Court at email.arizona.edu.
Alright.
So.
Okay, so that's that. Elections are candidacies are now open. Campaigning has begun actually as of this morning. We're having votes next
Tuesday the 11th. From
Tuesday the
8 a.m. to 5. Yep.
Yeah, all day, Tuesday the 11th. So I guess they can.
We already did the first part.
If you have constituents who want to run, write-in candidacies are still options.
Yes.
Tell them, encourage them to involve themselves, etc. Okay, cool. The emergency meeting summary. Okay, for those of you who weren't there, I'm just going to run through this as quickly as possible. Due to the Supreme Court's advisory opinion based on the way in which several of our amendments were added, we had to have an emergency meeting to re-vote and re-ratify these particular things, specifically the term limits, the actual Supreme Court amendments that allowed the Supreme Court to rule in the first place, and the College of Medicine Phoenix amendment to the constituency areas, whatever we call that. Everything passed overwhelmingly. Everything was also considered to be retroactive to the day that we voted on them, because it was a procedural error on my part where I didn't actually, because I didn't say motion passed in the meeting, they were considered nullified. Are there any questions about this? Maria?
I will not contradict that statement, however, because it was issued by the Supreme Court, as a point of fact though, I still insist that there was a 14-14 vote and it was simply a miscount. Therefore, at that point, it was not just a procedural error, procedural error on your part, it was a error in terms of accounting error.
Okay.
But that doesn't matter.
Jared?
Have we sent out minutes from that meeting, and are there gonna be minutes from that meeting sent out?
Those minutes were sent out.
They were, I just missed them.
They were sent out.
They haven't been approved. Anything else? Danielle?
Oh, sorry, I was.
Oh, Alma, welcome. Does anyone mind if we go back to Alma? Does anyone have any just simple questions that Alma can answer for us before she's just going to give her election spiel?
Let me just interject and say I gave a rundown that you notified the candidates, but that you were gonna have to go back and talk to some of the people who were notified because of the term limit.
Yes.
We pulled that up in everybody's.
Yes.
Do you want me to go now?
Yes, please. Everyone's fine with Alma? Just all right. Alma, go ahead.
Sorry, I've been really sick for the last 2 weeks, and that's why I probably don't look normal. And I'm like, because I was in the parking lot trying to get this sorted out. Okay, so I sent out an email this morning notifying the candidates who we verified the signatures and we got all of their stuff in. I sent that list this morning, and we had requested an opinion from the Supreme Court right after the meeting that you guys had, the emergency meeting. We spent a few hours trying to figure that out afterwards. And I heard back from them today, which is why I sent an email. I think you all should have received it by now. I sent it like 20 minutes ago, which I attached the document that they sent back to me. That's basically stating that what you guys voted on means that we have to abide by it in our elections code. Meaning that for this upcoming election, for those who did surpass the 3 or 5 years serving either as a rep or on exec, they can no longer run this election. So I have not notified them yet, but I will be notifying the individuals who that did affect because of the term limits. I still need to verify a few things before I send that out, but I did want to notify the council that that was going on. So if you guys have any questions, I can answer them. I attached the document. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at it. But basically, in the last page is on the bottom their recommendation, which states that we have to follow what was voted on and what's on the election code. So, therefore, we will be having a few candidates taken off of our list, and they will not be placed on the ballot. And that also includes if they run as a write-in. They cannot do that. So, but that's across the line for everyone.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
So is campaigning now open?
Yes.
Okay.
So once I sent the email, campaigning is official. Since we're running late, of course, we're running a lot later than expected. I thought that it was best to notify everyone at noon after we verified and make sure that people are allowed to start campaigning. They do have a week from now. The election is April 11th. So, yeah, I will be sending out, the graduate college agreed to send out an email like I sent during the special election, which goes out to every graduate student. So they agreed to do that for us, which is great because we'll just send out the link. And again, we'll reach out to all of the advisors or assistant deans of the colleges so that they also help send out. But I also have to rely on you guys to help spread the word because I can only do so much. I only have access to a limited amount of people that can send this out for me. So if you guys have contacts, please help send that out. But also making sure that you're following the elections code with sending out emails about campaign stuff. Just make sure you read that over. And I think that's it. The website will be updated now that we have this kind of sorted out. We will be posting the document on the website. So yeah, that's that. Does anyone have any other questions?
No. Thanks, Anna. We appreciate all your efforts.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. POD funding for certification materials. Raul asked me to put this on, but he's not here. So I don't think it's probably not a good idea to vote on this without him here, but basically he wants to be able to use POD funding to purchase books, textbooks, materials in order to study for certification exams, wherein we would buy books from the GPSC that they want to be given to particular departments for their use. As things like urban planning and the appropriate use of water and various other kinds of professional development certifications that you can apply and take exams for. Danielle?
I have a question that I think you know.
Okay.
How often do you think to be updated?
I don't. I have no idea about the details.
Yeah.
This is the problem. So I was just he wants that to be able to do that. The basic principle is that we buy materials that we then give to departments. And then those departments then run them. I assume that most departments have a library of some kind. I know that I do, but I'm a literature person, so that's a little obvious. But rather than us having to run a library of our own, those departments will run a library, and it's about maximizing the amount of certifications we can grant our graduate students without, maximizing their outlay. Danielle?
I think this is a good idea, but I really wish you much to the table, so I mentioned it.
All right, so awesome. Any objections to tabling this till Raul can give us a better idea? Okay, cool. The GBSC 2025 strategic plan. Jude.
So yeah, myself and the executive board have been trying to update our strategic plan, which used to be GPSC 2020, was created back in 2012-2013 academic session by the then executive board members, and I believe the idea they had in mind was to have each executive board kind of review and update the information in there, make any additions or anything that we think is necessary to include or exclude from that. We have done some significant edits to the document. I believe the EB members are on board with this right now because we worked on it together. However, we just wanted to bring it up to the council and see if you guys have any recommendations, suggestions, or contributions you'd like to make, and we'll be happy to incorporate that. Other than that, we want to move on and approve this so we can have it on our website going forward.
Questions about the plan? Okay. Motions?
So moved.
I have a motion. Motion to approve the 2025 strategic plan. Second. Can I get ayes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 ayes. 16 ayes. 16 ayes. Any nays? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Okay. 3 abstentions.
No, I'm not saying, sorry.
Sorry. Jasmine? 2 abstentions.
Yeah.
Jasmine?
I move that we back up in the agenda because Raul just showed up.
Okay, awesome. So, Raul, we wanted to ask you questions about this POD funding for certification materials. So, could you explain it a little more coherently than I did, and what exactly?
Did you show my email?
I did not. So, I will do that. We'll start there.
Well, as you may remember, last session, a person proposed that the POD funding could be used to pay for certification exams. So I thought that was a good idea.
Gotcha.
If you could give me a second to get my read.
Raul, pardon me for a second. Strategic plan passes 16-0-2. Thank you.
I just,
Yes. So the strategic plan is passed, but the motion is passed. Pass the motion. It's passed. Okay. Raul sent me this email. Raul, please start again. I apologize.
Again, the person, I think one of our constituents,
Right.
one of our representatives asked if POD funding could be used to pay for certification exams. I thought that was a good idea. I had the case of a friend of mine who wanted to get assistance to pay for for a certification exam, and he wanted to take the patent bar exam. So I thought we may be able to help private students with that. I think that we will have to put some limits. The limits I had thought is you can use these funds to pay for materials, not to pay for the exam itself. You have to prove that this certification will help you with your career, that it's really relevant to what you're studying. That after the exam you have to surrender the materials to EPSC. So EPSC can donate them to one of the libraries, and that this funding cannot be used to pay for the certification, or when that certification is the main purpose of your studies. So, for example, you cannot request funds to pay for your materials to take the Arizona State Bar exam if you are studying law. I just wanted to propose that, if you agree with that. I am not asking for more funds. This will be just another category for POD funding.
Okay. Storm, and then Jerry.
So we have a limited amount of POD funds, and I should have actually brought my materials from SSFAB to see what we actually spend out of that account. I know we're actually a lot better about our POD spending, comparatively speaking to our club funding spending, but we have a limited amount of funding in that. I believe when I spoke last week, I think we only got 10,000 from SSFAB this year, and we asked for about 15. So I'm curious, one, this is going to obviously increase the pool of applicants. I'm curious what the meaningful differences are, or between, so this is going to get into something that I'm sure not a lot of people understand, just because of the actual narrow practice, but what's the meaningful difference between the patent bar, state bar, the MPRE, or any other legal aid certification? Why would they not be able to pay? Because I'll be frank, I don't think you should be able to use You should be able to use GPSC money for any of them. What's the meaningful difference between those? Furthermore, maybe I don't know about a lot of the other certification exams, but those ones I just mentioned, those are going to produce non-reusable materials that will be used by that student specifically for their study and for their certification. So the return to the GPSC will be effectively used materials that I don't know what the value will be of them. They will also be dated, as Danielle alluded to just a few moments ago. We don't know if we should get some clarification on that. I'm curious what other examinations you're thinking that these monies will be used on. All while keeping in mind that means I think that means that we're going to have a lot less speaker events and trips that a lot of students or a lot of departments have relied on POD for. So what are the actual things what are the certifications you're referring to, other than the one patent bar example? What's the meaningful difference between the patent bar, the state bar, the MPRE? Those are all three things you would need to do if you wanted to practice as a patent lawyer. And also, I don't know how we define what the charge of your degree is. To be a practicing attorney in every state, you don't necessarily have to have a law degree. For example, in California, you don't have to go to law school. Furthermore, going to law school doesn't mean you're a practicing attorney. So you could be going to law school to get what is known as a JD preferred job. You could go and work in compliance. So like you would be taking a certification exam to be qualified to get a compliance job for like a healthcare compliance job, where you can actually be a practicing attorney. So what's the meaningful difference? Just because if someone goes to school to be a doctor, they can't use it for those exams, or they will use it for like their step exams? How would that work?
Well, the patent bar, you don't need to be a lawyer to take it. You just need to have a science background. So it won't be only for law students. It will be for any other student taking any type of science. As I said, if it's the exam that you're supposed to take, if it's the main purpose of your studies, then you should not be able to use those. This will be more to enhance your career, to give you more opportunities for career development. Right now I'm just, I can only think on the patent bar exam because I know that there's a group of students in the law college. I don't know if they have a club, but there's a group of students studying intellectual property, and I'm sure they will be interested in at least having these materials at the library, so they could at least look at them and be prepared for the exam. Is there anything I haven't answered yet?
I think I'm not satisfied with how we determine what the primary purpose is, right? So if I go and I get a hard science background, how do you determine what my primary, how do you determine what my primary job is at that point? Furthermore, I understand that it is helpful.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why the GPSC is the one that funds what would otherwise be within, would be the student's obligation to take care of. I get that we definitely want to help our students, we want to help our constituencies. I don't see the meaningful difference between why we want to help them for ancillary things rather than their primary focus. Like, if we're going to help them, why is it not for their primary focus? Why is it for their ancillary focus?
Well, because if we say that we're gonna help with the main thing, all the law students will apply. So I just saw this as a way to help our constituents with certification exams that will enhance the career. If we say we'll pay for the main thing, all law students and all the professional students will apply for their exam.
All right, Storm, we'll just come back to you if you have anything else. It's going to be Jared, John, Jasmine, Dustin, and then Danielle.
I think that most of us like the idea of this, but to summarize Storm's points in a much simpler way, this gets really complicated really fast. And this would potentially use all the money up really fast. For example, like he alluded to with our STEP and money that we pay out of pocket for it, with Picmonic, DIT, UWorld, all these things, each individual pays in excess of $1,000 of personal study material. Second year, third year, you have to fly to one of 6 places in the entire U.S. to take your Step 2 clinical services, and that comes out to over $2,000 between hotel airfare and test fees. So by itself, the College of Medicine could take our entire POD funding budget every year. So I don't want to take away what everyone else wants to say, but almost move to table this, and if we could maybe reword it or give it some more salient examples of like what you're trying to get to the heart of the matter. Be like, okay, this is the type of thing we would support. This is the type of thing we wouldn't, and why, and come through
Can I
that.
just, before you do that, can I just ask, like, I think this is actually a great idea. My concern would be, like, if we do this, something like this, it should go to people who actually financially need it. So, like, with medicine, like, there's FAP. Like, when you're applying to medical school, you can get the fee assistance program, and that's paid for by AAMC and people who donate. So, like, I don't know how we would come up with a mechanism to make sure that, like, only the neediest students who actually really need the money get it. But I feel like that would be the only really feasible way to do it. So that way, like, because a lot of people can pay for these things, they have wealthy parents or whatever. But there are a lot of people who can't actually. It would be really detrimental to them and to their career if they can't. So I think if we did do something like that, we should make our efforts and to make sure that the people who need it the most actually get that funding. That's all I will say.
Data students can verify FAFSA.
Okay, well, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like something like that, if it's feasible, then I think it's a great idea. And maybe not maybe we could create a new category for that. But I'm just saying, I think it's a great idea in that respect.
So maybe we should reword it and come back next meeting with something.
Well, I would like to hear some ideas for how to reword it rather than just saying, well, I'll go write this again. So,
well, that's one idea.
yeah,
that
so
John has, I'm sorry.
Jasmine, Dustin, and Danielle, and then Storm, and then maybe we can table. Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, so I know I read this last time, but just to refresh everyone's memory, because I think we've all forgotten what was said, the CAPLA rep, Josh, passed on a question from a constituent, and I'm just going to read it for the sake of not losing any important information. I wanted to reach out to GPSC rep to discuss the possibility of purchasing LEAD reference guides for CAPLA. LEAD offers a number of credentials, and at least one of which should be appealing to CAPLA students no matter their discipline. I am preparing for the LEAD neighborhood development exam, which would be of particular interest to planning students. Having the reference guide available to students would help students graduate with additional credentials, making them more attractive to employers and boosting the college's image/ranking. In addition to the exam being difficult and time-consuming, it is also quite expensive. I'm going to skip this next sentence because it's irrelevant. The reference guide, the main but not the only material tested, is $250 for a hard copy, about $200 for an online copy. If CAPLA were to encourage students to become accredited, it would improve our competitiveness with other design and planning colleges around the country. So I did look up the editions of the guide that was referenced by the CAPLA constituent, and it looks like there's a new edition every 5 years or so. So while $250 is like not something to scoff at, it would be $250 over 5 years because it would get returned and other CAPLA students would be able to use it year after year. So that is a concrete example that's not the patent bar exam.
Alright, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people brought up some good points. But I was just thinking, like, I think this is a good way to advocate for our constituents and actually get the colleges to pay for these programs themselves or these books, because those are the ones that are actually going to use it. So if we can convince them to pay for it, I think that's better than just trying to use our money for it.
Okay, Danielle?
So I think that we definitely need to identify more people than medicine, law, and CAPLA that could use this or benefit from it. I'm sure that there are other certifications, but we don't want to just say, okay, like this is just available for X amount of people. I'm sure that there's business students that could benefit from this because I think like accounting has to take like some exams to be certified, etc. Maybe somebody can confirm on that. And furthermore, I think that we need to delineate. So I don't think it's fair to say we'll originally purchase this for you specifically, and then, but how long do they get to keep the materials? Like we need to outline that too, because what if other people in the same cycle want to use it, but this person occupies it for the entire time leading up to? Like, should we require, if you're going to need this to prep for an exam, you must make copies and make those available on file in your department until?
No, because that's a violation of so many laws.
Well, no, but I
Yeah.
what I'm, okay.
Yes,
Do
I
you know
know
what I'm
what you mean,
saying?
yeah.
Like, do we have like a timeline and say, okay, you can have 3 weeks with this book, then it's mandatory, kind of like the library has a recall system, then it's mandatory that you return it so the person can use it after you for 3 weeks, and then you can recall it back, etc.
Okay.
Or we could probably get them put on file with the library too, instead of us having to do this, or the departments having to keep track of them.
Okay.
Because I think that was a big issue with stuff that was purchased last year.
Yes.
Like, it's hard to keep track of stuff in some of the big colleges.
Right.
So it'd be easier to have them in a more central location like the library.
Okay. Storm.
I think John brought up a good point about focusing on need. I think that actually, well, it's a valid point. It really opens up more problems, especially when I don't want to speak for everybody because I know everybody's program is different, but in the JD program, you are not permitted to work your first year. Many people come into law school and you're working. I know this is the case for a lot of people. You're living only on loans, so effectively you're going to be evaluated as having no income and only your loans. So you're probably going to be eligible for this program. And the vast majority of students will be considered eligible because they won't have income and they strictly have loans. So you know, it's great to say we and I think it's a valid idea to say we should do this based on need, but what we're going to have is everyone's going to have need theoretically. And John can definitely elaborate on. I realize I'm overgeneralizing here, but furthermore, again, Danielle made reference to accounting, and they have certifications. So a CPA, how do we dictate why that certification for a person who's an accounting major is not their primary purpose of going here? I'd like to go back to what Dustin said. This isn't GPSC's. This isn't something that we should be funding. If we want to advocate on our students to get the departments to increase these materials, that's definitely something we should do. That is our function. Again, this will put the patent bar alone, for example, costs almost $400 a head just to register for it. That is not covering any of your study materials. I'm in a bar examination class. The state bar, that averages about $2,000 to $3,000. Patent bar examination materials will not be that much, but they won't be that much lower than that. They'll be expensive review materials. Furthermore, The MPRE is another examination attorneys have to take. Whether or not you dictate that's a necessity depends on what state you're in. Some states don't require you to take it. So that means it's no longer a necessity for you or no longer the main purpose of what you're here for.
All right, it's gonna be John and Dustin. Is your back, Rebecca? Dustin and then me.
Just to quickly clarify what I said earlier. So a reason why I specifically referenced FAP is because it actually takes your parents' income into account, not just yours, for that exact reason, because we're all poor college kids, so to speak, in one way or another. And that's why I was saying I don't know if we could even do this, because I don't know if the thing you were referencing earlier would even work for that purposes. So like, it may not be possible. But I'm just saying, again, in an ideal situation, you would be able to take other factors into account. And again, that's why FAP does that, because like if both your parents are medical doctors, they're assuming that you will have.
Is this specific for medical school?
Yeah, this is the only this is the only thing I'm just referencing
Yeah.
that because it's the only thing I'm really familiar with. So, but yeah, I mean it's a good point. But I'm saying if we can't do that, then yeah, it's not really going to be meaningful because everyone's going to be broke at this level for sure.
Sounds good.
So I was just thinking about this. So I don't think we can just buy one book. I think once people hear about it and they're gonna all apply for this, and for CAPLA, right, they're gonna, for the certification we're gonna need to buy, they're all gonna apply for it. And so they're not gonna share a book, right? So we're gonna have to spend a lot of money that.
Here's what I've got a couple of suggestions. I think part of the problem with Storm is this main objective idea, and I think we should just avoid. We should find another mechanism by which we dictate this is not going to be a thing we pay for, and this is the thing we're going to pay for. So whether we say ancillary or additional certification or specific professional certifications or whatever kind of language you want to use, that it moves us away from you got into law school to get a JD and be an attorney and patent attorney. The second thing I want to get is to Dustin's point, which is I really like the idea of us advocating for departments to pay for things. So rather than us paying for things, we could go halvesies with the library. We could say we were willing to help fund the library to purchase specific texts that can be used for the entire graduate population, because then if the library buys it, it goes into their system and we never have to worry about it ourselves. And it can also, and if it's $100 a piece, so the library says we'll pay everything if you'll put in a little money, that would be great too. So that's the thing we need to talk to the library about. And it also deals with this problem of people buying the same book over and over again, or people needing more than a month to study for an exam, where some people just need it for a week, and then all the copyright problems become the library's problems, and they're the experts. So, and then finally, another thought is it might not be a bad idea just to put a hard dollar number on it, and say we won't pay more than X dollars for text, and if we decide that we're going to buy it for individuals, we can say we'll give you $100 towards this, and you can pay the rest out of your pocket if you like, something along those lines. It's another way of doing it that might be useful. So that was a lot. Jasmine and then Torben.
So just a reminder that POD money can only be given, or you can only apply for POD money if you're a group of at least 3 graduate professional students. So no individual would be able to apply for this. And I do think that we could, within the framework of POD, make it clear that it's not the individuals receiving the books, it is the college or the program or the department receiving the books. So I think at least those concerns would be overcome, but I do really like Dustin's suggestion, so that'd be a completely different direction to take it.
Okay, Torben.
And just add another layer of complexity to it. It's very expensive to be a student and try to start your career in 2017. Putting pressure on departments is maybe one thing to do. It's a bigger societal problem too. I'm not sure we can tackle that at GPSC, but why is it costing this much money just to get started when you don't have a source of income? It is something maybe grad students can get together, get connections with people, make connections made across the state, nationally, advocate for, why are these fees so high just to get started off?
Alright, cool. I'm going to now take this moment to second Jared's motion that the thing be tabled until come back with some other language at the next meeting. And Raul, if you want to solicit stuff from everybody, it sounds like there's lots of opinions in the room. Can we table? Any objections to tabling this till the next meeting? Great. Table till the next meeting. All right. I'm also going to move that this Daily Wildcat article move to the end of the meeting because it's going to have to be something in executive session, and we shouldn't interrupt the meeting in the live stream for that. So we can just move on to the budget right now.
Second.
Any objections to moving it to the end of the meeting? Great. So, budget. Let's just, hopefully I have the old version of it. So, Jude, anything you want to start with?
Oh yeah, please can you pull up the,
I think so.
check your drive, go from Google Drive.
I'm
Okay.
sending you a
Send
link
it
to it
to-
also.
Okay.
So, some combination of
Okay.
these steps should get you. Oh, sorry, I sent it on Facebook.
Well,
I'll send it to you on.
yeah. Everyone chill for a sec.
Please,
Okay,
can you
send it to you right
confirm
now.
that?
Yes.
Okay, I think the first thing we need to do is confirm the exact amounts we have for next year, and I believe Chrissy has that information to share with us.
Oh, that's fine. So regarding the permit, cut, is that what permit?
That's right.
Okay, so, it was confirmed by our business manager in the Dean of Students Office that when there was the temporary budget cut, there was also a $21,000 permanent cut that was made to the amount from the Senator's office.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
that brings us back down to negative. All right, I think we might need to, so that means we're getting 179 on that amount, right? And it's $60, 60,000 retention fee.
I don't have that number in front of me, but
Yeah.
I think that was.
Anyways, Dan, if you can put that up, I think with this information now, we would go back to having some deficit again.
Think so?
Yeah, so we confirmed previously that we actually do have a retained fee, which is 60,000. The only thing that we needed confirmation with was the $200,000 permanent fund. And last year, it was cut down to 179. My understanding from the meeting I had previously was that we'll be getting back to 200,000, but it appears that that's not the case at this moment. So we need to go back to the budget. Now you'll notice that some things are in blue. The things that are in blue, I believe, are the things we already voted on last time and approved them. One motion I'd like to make quickly is to increase the president's stipend for next year from 13,000 to 16,000. And if we do approve that motion, maybe we don't have to vote on it now. I can just go through everything. If we do approve that motion, we need to increase how much we have for that. A few other recommendations I've made also is to increase marketing funds to 6,000. You see those recommendations in purple. I believe that's a color. I'm not colorblind. Increase marketing budget to 6,000. Increase our travel funds to 10,000, but we can reduce that now since we seem not to have enough money. And then a few other things, a few other items that are included that is open to discussion and debate, and nobody says that this has to be on our budget. One of them is we started discussion with Campus Pantry recently to extend our partnership with them. As some of you may remember, last year we voted to give them 1,000 plus or so. Now one of the discussions we had much recently with them this time around is to increase that fund and have them host a grad student only hour. So grad and professional students who ordinarily would not be inclined to go to Campus Pantry on the normal day would have a special hour for them, and possibly also include some items that would ordinarily not be provided to every other person. We haven't agreed on what figure exactly would be the right amount, but we're looking at somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 for that partnership for next year. I've included $10,000, which is the maximum, just potential, just to give us, to avoid us coming back again to the council. A few other new things which I think we can delete now with this information is previously we used to have a GEP workshop. That program was suspended last year after we did not receive the funding from SS5. That used to be $10,000. I've made a proposal to bring back that program for next school year, hoping that we'd have people who would have need for it. And I'm suggesting that we fund that with 5,000 from our own budget. I've also made a recommendation to increase research, the REAP funding we have for next year by 15,000. SS5 did reduce the funding for REAP this year for what she applied for. And in our last discussion at the last EB meeting, I believe we did discuss the possibility of increasing maximum award for that from 1,000 to 1,500. I don't know if that's still what we want to go ahead to do, but either way, we're recommending that we pull out $15,000 from our budget right now and add to the the research and project grant funding. At this point, I probably want to take off the savings. I had an idea of we trying not to spend all our money every year and actually have some savings, but since we don't have enough at this point, I don't think it's necessary to do that anymore. I also had another recommendation of having a GC discretionary fund, and the reason for this is this year, some of you will remember, a number of times people came to us to ask for some money that we had to think of other places to get that money from. I think one of that was when we had this teaching thing that we had outside. I
The
don't remember what
teaching,
it was called. Yeah.
the queer graduate student social,
number of
lots of problems.
Things that way. So I've recommended having $3,000 discretionary fund for the GC, and the idea is if people come to the council next year for such requests, you can have something to fall back to and not necessarily have to start readjusting the entire budget all over again. So at this point, I would open it up to questions, debates, and what have you.
All right, go ahead, Jude. Are the any of these you're going to no longer recommend us do?
Sorry?
Are you going to recommend some of these? Are you not going to recommend some of these?
I've
now?
asked to take away the savings
Okay,
and
so I'm just saying.
possibly the GP workshop if we all think so.
I'm just going to do this so that we recognize that these are stretch goals rather than actual anything. So, anyway, sorry.
What's the GEP workshop?
We used to pay graduate students to create workshops that then we own the materials on. We decided at the very first budget meeting, which, God, that was forever ago, that we wouldn't be able to afford it. So we've basically suspended that program for the year. I think Jude's idea was we could get it back, but we might not be able to. Sorry, Storm.
I know there's a lot of information there, so you're
Yeah.
really going through it at a rapid pace. What was can we scroll up to the executive compensation
Yeah, we'll start there.
at the top?
Good.
What was the justification for increasing the president's stipend by $3,000?
I'd answer to that. Last year when we came into this role, we had a vote to increase the stipend for our other GAs, the travel grant director, research and events, by 2,000. Currently the compensation is at 13,000, which is one of the lowest on campus. It's not even up to the average that we're trying to get to as a university. Our average is around 16,000. Most colleges have more than that. The GPSC president, which will definitely not be next year, has a lot of job to do, and I think it's only fair that we at least pay that person some reasonable compensation that is close to what other departments receive. Right now, the GPSC president, who most likely does more of the job in GPSC, receives the lowest compensation compared to other GA positions we have. So this will just be us getting close, a little bit above what we already pay our other directors.
All right. It's going to be Destin, Jasmine, and Danielle.
Oh, okay. So is Kevin gonna come to this meeting? Because I remember we requested him to come so we can talk about.
Kevin,
Yes.
he sent what his proposal is for next year, and I've included that on this project right now.
No, but I meant for the-
Kevin is running GPSA week. There is no way he can make this meeting.
Because we were thinking about lowering the events director down to an hourly rate.
If I would respond to that, I probably would caution against that. Part of the reason is I just think that the event director does a lot of job, and since we do not have a marketing admin at this moment, I think we can do some reshuffling of responsibilities and have that person take up more responsibility rather than cut it down to an hourly pay. Just a suggestion, and I think we do have some money in our budget to address that.
Then, based on this budget, I don't see how we can increase the president's stipend.
Right.
Yeah.
Jasmine?
I am going to completely contradict Dustin and say that I do think we should bring the president's stipend in line with the other GAs, mostly just because the reason we didn't The main reason no one proposed changing the GA stipends for the executive board this year is because that would involve the GAs voting on our own stipends, which is definitely a conflict of interest that we just wanted to avoid. But if we're voting on next year's presidential stipend, it's no longer a conflict of interest, and it is a very strange situation to have one GA in the office paid less than all the other ones. So I would recommend increasing the president's stipend to be in line with the rest of the GAs, which I believe is a $2,000 increase. So I think it would not quite be the 13,000 to 16,000. I think it would just be, I don't know. That's why I'm saying in line with the other ones, because we already have those numbers.
Something.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So also, I would say that, okay. So I want to propose that we change the Director of Legislative Affairs into a GA position, because I think that there are a lot of things that that position would be able to do with 20 hours a week that it currently cannot do with the work up to rate that we're giving it. And Jessie has actually laid out a lot of things that at least she would be able to do with 20 hours a week that are not just legislative affairs. They're also university policies that directly impact a lot of our constituents. They would be, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna read Jessie's, well, Jessie, you're right here. I don't know if you wanna talk about this. I also don't know if people wanna hold off on this specific topic until, okay. So I wanna come back to that because I do think it's a very good idea, and I think that it has the potential to have a very good return on investment, but we'll not discuss it right now. Okay, so I would say we should not even consider GEP workshop. If Jude wants to propose it, I'm going to fight against it really hard, because Kevin has, in about $500, managed to put GPAC's name on a ton of workshops this year and reached a ton of our constituents that way. And our GEP program has never reached that many constituents. So I think it's just not a good return on investment, and I think that we've seen this year it's a huge nightmare for us to try to run. So I would say don't even consider it, and we should just be taking that off. I would also say that I don't think research and project grants is going to need $15,000 of our general funds for next year, because it looks like this latest batch of applicants did not do a very good job. So it's not a good thing. I want them to resubmit with better applications, but it looks like we are actually not going to overspend this year. So everyone's aware, and travel grants sort of did this too. What happened was we got so many good applications last year that we took some money out of this year's REAP budget for last year's applicants because they were very strong. We just ran out of money. I don't think that is going to happen this year, and therefore I don't think we're going to need the extra round of funding from the general fund. Obviously, we can always revisit this, but I don't think it's a good idea to set aside $15,000 right now, when right now projections do not indicate we're going to need that, and we could be using $15,000 in some more efficient way. I also think that GC discretionary funds are probably not necessary, mostly just because we already have so much money set aside for events and workshops and all of these other social events, everything, that I think the General Council already has plenty of discretion over plenty of funding, and that having this extra $3,000 line item would basically just cause more confusion during meetings as people start to argue over what we should be using it for and whether it should fall under another budget category. I think the grad campus pantry thing is cool though, so that's my statements.
Do you have a number for REAP, just by, if not 15,000, do you have a number? Before I move on?
I'll respond to the REAP comment real quick. From the data I have, 2 years ago we had about $98,000 for our REAP projects that we awarded. Last year we had about $145,000 that we awarded for REAP. This year we've only awarded $78,000. We only had $78,000 to award for REAP. I think one of the things that happened with the REAP program was, one, we reduced the money from $2,000 to $1,000, which I think probably made it less attractive to people. Also, again, it's open to debate, but I personally think that increasing the maximum award back to 2005 might possibly be, I know last year I recall that when we sent out that information, a number of people sent angry emails to us asking why that was reduced back to, I think Jasmine, you accompanied that as well, why that was reduced to $1,000 and all of that. So I'm still of the idea that taking that back up to 2005 at least, if not $2,000, it's not a bad idea. And I think that it's just a good gesture to put the REAP director to give out some more room to whoever that whoever will be in the position next year, to give them some more room to actually expand the program rather than the
Right.
trend I
Can
seem
I
to see.
respond to that?
No.
Actually, for now, okay.
Can we, okay, hold on to REAP for a second. We're still talking about paying people money.
Okay.
Let's go back to Jared. That'll be Jared, Danielle, me, Dustin, and Torbett. But I want to go back to paying the president more and or paying the legislative affairs person more. Let's talk about payroll for a minute. Jared.
Yeah, sure. I know that I think some of my other colleagues in the professional schools who don't have GA ships touched on this last meeting, but could we reiterate, like, what's the big reason we don't change, what is the reasoning against changing events director from a GA ship to an hourly thing?
Can I chime in on this because it's relevant? My idea is to have the executive vice president absorb some of that and then translate. I don't think that it's fair to have somebody not on the EV that's not getting money from SSFAB getting a GA ship. If we're not gonna do that, then I don't think that that's fair, and we should either use that money and increase both VP stipends and then reallocate and then make events hourly or something like that, because I don't see the logic in having an events director who's doing stuff that the executive vice president I could easily do. So I'm not claiming to be Kevin. I think Kevin does his job very well, but I'm saying that since we will have new people in all of these positions next year, Kevin's not coming back as events director, I'm not coming back, we're gonna have new people, right? So I think that that's the time to have a learning curve because you're gonna have to have it anyways. So I agree with you, Jared, 100%.
Yeah,
I
I
think
will-
that we need to kind of really talk this out. And I don't see a problem with increasing the president's stipend, honestly. It's a shame that we say that we advocate for grad students and then the president gets paid like the lowest amount of any grad student, right? Like that's,
Yeah, I agree with you with as far as bringing president's GA ship into line with the rest of our GAs, and I also agree with you with the whole combining or maybe slicing up pies of different responsibilities things, because we have the social chair is on EB, correct?
Yes.
And basically what Marquez did so amazingly this semester was do events. So we could probably tie some things over there and tie some of those other responsibilities into EVP or AVP or whoever, and then we have a marketing person, right? And like they could do some of the marketing.
We don't have a
we
marketing
don't have
person.
a marketing person, but I don't think that we would need them if we reallocate responsibilities of marketing between EVP, AVP, and.
My point exactly, like we could fold a lot of these things in together, so I don't, yeah.
I will speak in opposition,
Yeah.
as is my want. The thing I see, which might have missed over everybody, is the thing that we talk about is that we do travel and research and events, and if we're going to do events, and we're going to have these GAs do travel and read, then it doesn't make sense to me to say that this events position is worth less than these other positions. And I mean, you guys might disagree with me on that, but if we're going to have a person called the event director, they need to be on parity with the other people we call the directors. And that might mean saying, no more event director and the EVP does it now.
Yeah.
But like I don't want, the event director does not need to be an hourly person.
Well, because like I just said though, the difference is travel grants and REAP are funded through SSFAB. That's where that GA
Right,
is
and
funded.
my point, Danielle, with that is that events aren't funded by SSFAB. They're a thing that we fund out of the general fund, so it makes sense that we're also funding the person in charge of that out of the general fund. That's the opposition argument. Is that clear?
Yep.
Okay, so do we have any motions on this, or do we want, is there,
Motion on what?
well, do we want to continue to discuss on other things, or do we just, I'm moving on to Dustin at
Well,
this
to
point.
respond to you, Daniel, just quickly, like I agree with you in principle, but then there's the money, and I would love to have everyone on the entire council go to GA ship. But one, I would get to GA ship for SSFAB, like Danielle said, which I wasn't even aware of until you said that's a very good point. Two, I think it discriminates against professional students in the sense that like the awards and whatever doesn't benefit us as much as it would benefit like a PhD student. And three, I'd say that it's 32,000 versus 7,000 is a significant difference in money, or whatever we figure out to hourly pay Kevin.
To respond, the difference between a professional and PhD students is that when I get a stipend, I'm also teaching 2 courses on top of all the work that I'm doing through here. So if Kevin was teaching 2 courses and running all the events and only getting $7,000 from us, he probably wouldn't get much money out of it. Okay, Jasmine's been busy. Sorry, Jasmine.
Regarding we had misinformation at the last meeting regarding GA-ships and professional students. It is a case-by-case basis. To the best of my knowledge, there are no actual blanket hard bans, at least at the university level. Your college might have a ban, but that is something to take up with your college. So for example, our travel grants director for 4 years was a professional student and got a GA-ship that waived tuition for all those years, etc. So that was Cameron, yeah. And so while you might assume, and I know they want to make you think, that it's impossible for you to get a GA-ship as a professional student, we have quite a bit of evidence that it's not impossible, so I don't think that any decisions regarding whether a position should be a GA-ship should be made based on the idea that it's impossible to get one as a professional student, because that's not true. Also, I would like to point out that in case people don't understand, we are basically trading money for time here. So because we have a GA-ship on this events director, our events director puts in a lot of work for essentially for free, because they're already getting paid, to put on a whole bunch of things. If we had to instead pay other people to do those for us and pay an hourly rate, we would not be able to do nearly as many events in $32,000. So I just want to make that clear, because holy cow, actual event planners are very expensive and we are getting a really good deal out of this GA-ship.
Okay, let's get back to Dustin, Tobert, and then Jude. Dustin.
So yeah, when I think I brought up last time about the events director, and my point was we're paying him $32,000 and the events budget is $67,000. That's 30% or 50% of the budget. Anyways, but I think that because we're at $35,000 over budget right now, we should not talk about increasing. We should talk about decreasing. So wherever that decreasing is, we need to think about where to decrease.
Totally.
Not really just kind of rehashing some points already made. I still thought it'd be nice to get a description of what people are actually doing in these positions. I feel uneducated voting on this. These points have been brought up before. It is a disadvantage for certain majors to, there's an argument to say no one should get paid, or it should just be an hourly rate if you go to a meeting. I mean, if you're an engineering student being a GPSC president is not going to really help your career that much. More people get knowledgeable, more people involved. If they're going to 30 hours of meetings a week, maybe we should be spreading the wealth there. So it's without seeing what people are actually doing, if it's so essential that we're paying these people the GA salary. I mean, for my major, higher education, or for government public policy, yeah, it's really, really applicable. It's gonna be helpful. But other people, why would they want to do it except for the salary? And yeah, I'm just not sure yet if it's what we should be doing.
All right, Jude.
I was gonna move that we actually start cutting down, like we start making a motion so we can move ahead with this discussion. And the first motion I'd like to make is to increase the president's stipend. I don't know what exactly is the current stipend for other directors. I think it's 15,000 something. We could move it to that same amount, or make it an approximately $16,000 stipend. Either way works.
Well, which one do you want to move to?
For the president.
Yeah, well, do you want it to be 16,000 or do you want it to match everybody else? So pick one.
I mean, there's an argument to have it be equal with every other person, so we can do that.
All right, so a motion to have the president's GA position to match the other GA positions in the GPSC.
I second.
Second. Okay. Can I get
And that
aye?
means we're increasing this to
It would-
32,000, I think.
It would be it'll be less than $16,000, or $16,000 stipend total. So we're adding approximately $2,000 to the president's total stipend and tuition, etc. Is that clear with everybody? I got a second. Can I get ayes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 ayes. Any nays? 4 nays. Any abstentions? All right. So we're going to increase the president
How many
to
abstentions?
5, 6. All right. So increasing the president.
A motion to convert events director to either hourly and then bump up the administrative and vice president stipends accordingly. So first we need to decide what we want to make the max events director, and then we can bump up the other two accordingly. Because I think that we can redistribute, like I'm saying, because that's part of our duties is to reassess what we've done this year, what, and like kind of redistribute these, so that's my mission.
I'm gonna say two things. Having done events, like as a professional, this is a ridiculously small amount of money we're paying him, and I know it's a third of the budget, but it's like that's labor and time and effort, and it's exhausting. And two, it's also expertise, and like IT tech and literally every other skill that we hire people to do, events directing is a skill that requires effort, time, work to get to. And so as great as Danielle would be at marketing, I don't know that the next executive vice presidents are going to be super great at it. So that's just a thing to keep in mind when we're reducing how much we're paying this advanced admin now. Okay? It'll be Jude and then Dustin.
I'd like to make a last comment to this. Danny, I understand your point. However, I'll be very frank to say that having an events director who is separate from the executive board, who plans all our events and programs, it's a great idea. And I think Kevin has been very helpful with Showcase, Grand Slam, and many other things we've done this year. It takes away a lot of pressure from me as a president, even from you as the executive vice president. It allows us to focus on other things like advocacy and other things we should be doing. So frankly, I would honestly prefer if we leave this as a GA position. I think that position has enough to do 20 hours most weeks. Maybe not all weeks, but there are weeks that they actually do more than that. But however, it's open to the council to decide.
So I'm okay with this. I just would like the opportunity to renegotiate some of the things in the EVP manual that I think could be put under the events director now, like taking control of social media between that person exclusively and Carol, like splitting it maybe, but definitely having that reside under their umbrella.
Okay. So
Can I, sorry,
Alma.
can I just say something really quick? I know I'm not voting, but it makes it really difficult when you don't have an actual, like, person that does marketing or media, because you have to rely on Carol, and she's great, but a lot of times you just need to have someone there. So I just wanted to throw that out.
So, all right. So we now have a second motion. We have a motion. I'm not sure exactly what you were moving to do, but
The motion
Danielle,
is to
did you
leave
second
the
to leave it?
program director the way it is.
All right. So, and then Danielle, you seconded that. Is that what you said?
Yes, but I'm going to
Yeah, we're gonna talk
motion
about
to
EVP stuff.
reallocate some of my duties, yeah.
Okay. So now I have a motion that's been seconded, which is to leave the events director at GA level, everything else. I want to hear from Dustin and Jared quickly, and then we'll vote.
I was gonna move on to something we can cut.
Okay. Jared.
Yeah, point of information, like how much money do we need to cut to get into the black, or at least break even?
That's what I'm trying to figure out with these spreadsheets.
At least $21,000.
At least
Okay,
1,000.
so it depends on whether you want to say our approved budget at the moment, or if you want to say the budget that Jude is proposing. Because our approved budget is balanced. What we have already approved is balanced. However, if we take all of Jude's recommendations, it is no longer balanced.
Right,
So
that's
maybe we
more
should
like
start there.
If we
Scroll
adopt
down to the
Jude's.
section with campus pantry.
Yes, but first we have to vote on keeping the GA ship as is. So keeping the events director as a GA ship at $32,000. Can I get ayes, please? Three, 6, 8, 9 ayes. Any nays? Nays. 1, 2, 4 nays. Any abstentions? Okay, great. So, I'm going to take Danielle's advice. We're going to go to the stuff that's all hypothetical.
So how many abstentions was that? A lot. I mean, I can say a lot in a minute.
Yeah, just say a lot. Passes. Motion passes. So, I'm for, okay, so this red campus pantry hours. Are you saying you want to allocate $10,000 to pay someone hourly to work at the pantry? Or are you saying you want an event?
No, it's
Where
not
we
an
at?
event.
Okay.
It was going to be an event, but we realized that we can actually use our money to buy food and give out to students. So what we're thinking of doing now is to actually work with them. They will be the one to put up the normal hours, but then we're just supplying them this form so that they can make some changes within their structure and have a special classroom. That's all.
Danielle, would you have to talk about?
Yeah, they're going to be receiving money from student services fee this year, $15,000 we allocated to them. I don't know how much extra they need or want, but they'll also be able to get money from the UA Foundation now. because they have removed their 501(c)(3) status, so now they can get money from UA Foundation, which is a game changer for them, because that means that money can be allocated to them. So I don't think that it's a bad idea for us to give money, but maybe less than this. And I do realize that food scarcity is a huge issue, but I also realize there's other stuff on the table, so we either need to come back to this, or like deal with the other stuff first and then come back to campus pantry if we really feel committed to the 10,000. That's just information for everybody.
Okay. Jasmine.
So this is, I think, another time versus money trade-off. I don't know how many of you have gotten the email about Stuff the Catran, but it is a food drive. It is not a food drive for the campus pantry. It is a food drive for the Southern Arizona Food Bank. I'm going to point out that we have a food bank on campus, and yet we are currently having a food drive for the one that is not on campus. I think that giving them more money is not going to fix this problem. I think they need more time and more awareness raising, and money is not going to accomplish that. So I would say that currently, all right, Chrissy, do you have a...
Just point of, they can only hold so much food too, so I mean,
I realize that. Yeah, but like, just,
Right.
it still seems very strange to me. Because I would think that if they're going to stuff the Catran, they could hold more distributions or something as well. And that would probably require more man hours, not more money. So I would strongly advocate for us not giving any additional money to the campus pantry. I would say continue to fund at $1,500, which I think is what we approved this year. But make it very clear for next general council that they need, like, do a volunteer event where the general council goes and pitches in. Or like make it far more clear that we need to push out marketing stuff for campus pantry. Or do more food drives or something. That would be my recommendation for that budget item.
Justin.
So I'm going to say, I'm going to move to cut campus pantry back to $1,500, like just Jasmine said, and I'm going to, I think we should zero out the REAP, but then I see that Jude has moved it.
Yeah, let's hang on to the campus pantry. Let's hang on to the campus pantry for a minute. So you're moving from $10,000 to $1,500 on campus pantry. Seconds.
And that's our current budget we have?
Yes.
Seconded.
Seconded.
So, as of now, if this spreadsheet is right, we have about $6,000 deficit. I think we will be able to fix our budget. While I would agree that we should probably reduce that money, I don't know if I would, if 1,500. I mean, ASUA picked up this organization as part of them. I think GPSC, if we want to say that we also care about food insecurity among grad students, I feel like we should actually take a step or do something a bit significant. I think giving out $3,000 or $5,000 from our close to $1 million budget to support campus pantry is a good gesture. That's what I would recommend.
I'm going to say that when we had a food drive amongst this group of people, I was the only person besides Jesse to bring food.
That's right.
And so, shame on all of you, first. But two, I'm not sure that Jasmine's idea of us having a food drive is the best option, nor am I sure that handing them $10,000 is a great way of feeling about it.
Yep.
So I wonder, sorry.
I would just say, I don't know what Jude, we've talked about this. Have you talked to Campus
Yes,
Pantry?
we
They've
did.
requested this money, is that?
Like I said, we talked about between $5,000 to $10,000.
Okay.
$5,000 to $10,000.
So the other thing to note is that Campus Pantry does actually work with the food bank. They get food from the food bank and also other things and all of that kind of stuff. I think I think this is great. Like, I think having GPSC support Campus Pantry is a good idea. They're going to be going through a lot of different changes, coming through dissolving their 501c3 and going into the foundation, and what does that mean for all of us, which I don't actually have the answer to. So whatever you want to do, it might be in your best interest to hold off until they're more solid in their program within ASU.
Awesome.
But
I was going to wrap up and be like, $1,500 is too little, $10,000 might be too much, $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000, second three. Austin.
I'm fine with that, whatever that was, the 3,000, so that's fine. I was just gonna say, like, if we're just gonna, if you want us to hand them more money, how does that fix the problem? Do we know how many grad students use the campus pantry?
Okay, maybe I'm not being clear with this. We're not handing them more money, we're asking them to host a grad student hour.
Okay.
That GPSC will partner with them and publicize
Okay.
those hours so that only
Alright.
grad student can go.
Okay, I
Sorry,
misunderstood.
sorry.
That was,
Jude,
that's something
Jude,
that I think that
Jude,
didn't get
sorry.
emphasized, so.
Jude, when you say hour, do you mean like they're gonna have a social hour where they like bring people in, or they're gonna have an hour a week for grad students, or what?
So they normally distribute, I think every Friday, right now. The goal is to have them host, say maybe Friday or Thursday or Saturday, whenever works for grad students, have them host like a full day that only grad and professional students can come in to pick up food.
Okay, and this is a day,
Either maybe
A year.
once a month
once a month.
or
Okay.
whatever. That's the what we're talking about
Is
now.
that more clear, everybody?
Yeah, that's better, so I agree with that. But I guess the thing is, again, still, just, I think the first part would be advertising this, I guess, because if no one knows about it, and we give them money to do this, and then no one goes and does it, we just wasted.
GPS will advertise it.
Yeah, exactly, so just, I think there needs to be some kind of, at least marker of how many people are actually going, because then you can kind of judge the amount of money to give. Like, if we're giving them $10,000, but 20 grad students show up, like, that's a huge disparity of money that we're giving them to buy things specifically for grad students, that they essentially now just have this money, they wasted this money to buy stuff for grad students that don't come. I know there's no way to predict who actually goes and how many people will go, but I think we need a better record of how many grad students are even going in the first place.
Oh,
Alright, I'm sorry.
I'm
No,
saying
I'm
from
we're
my
not-
experience,
yeah.
I didn't even know this was a thing.
Just to clarify,
Like,
as
I
Jude,
didn't know it was
pointed
just
out, we may have missed, we can't actually buy food,
Yeah.
which is a problem that I don't even understand. But we can't buy food, so we're paying for them hour of time spent than the food they already have, just to make sure that that's clear. But I have a motion that's been seconded for $3,000 rather than $10,000.
Can
I
Which-
think the
amend that
Yeah.
to 4,000?
Exactly, and there's a,
This is an option. We made the first motion, how much was it for? 'Cause
it
there's
was
a second to that
Dustin
motion.
and Dustin at $1,500, and I don't believe that was seconded.
I seconded it.
Jared seconded it.
So we have to have to retract that motion, or
I-
we have to vote it.
I also second.
All of the new numbers are amendments to the original motion, so this is actually
I
allowed.
think it'd be fine, well, we haven't made any sort of, we're at 4,000, 3,000, 4,000.
Can I get a 5,000?
Rahul, yeah, what did you say?
I'm saying that I'm seconding Dustin.
For $1,500. All right, so this is obviously something that we're gonna have to fight out a little bit more. Okay, I'm hearing a camp of $3,000. I'm hearing a camp of $1,500. I would like to hear from the $3,000 people and the 1,500 people, so that we can clarify why we want these particular things. So, Jay said you haven't spoken today.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How, is there inability for grad students to currently access the food?
No.
No.
So paying this money for this extra time will not give them better access to food than they already have?
In the sense that it will actually alert graduate students who don't know it exists to the fact that this thing exists. It will give them better access, and it will also give them access that undergraduates don't have. So I don't want to go get food and run into my student at the food bank. I mean, I get that it's shaming, and I don't care. Like, I just don't want to do it. So that's the idea, is what I'm hearing. Jasmine.
Maybe this is a compromise. I would move that we move everything, or move the campus pantry item to 1,500, but don't touch the EB discretionary funds item, so that if it turns out we get more information in the future that yes, additional money would clearly benefit our constituents, we can use the GC discretionary funds item and just shove that into the campus pantry item.
Does that make sense to everybody? So Jasmine's compromise is we move this to $1,500 and then leave $3,000 in discretionary spending, with the maybe proviso under discretionary that the campus food pantry might have dibs. Does that make sense to everybody? Because then we could just move half of it.
And we could also, like, this sounds like there's two sides of this coin. One is the advertising side of getting people to know about it, and we could spend some of our marketing and stuff. And the second side to that coin would be that we're trying to help out these people because they're doing a good thing. So we could theoretically, if we spend all this money on advertising, we'd get way better exposure, but we wouldn't really be helping the pantry, so to say. We'd just have more foot traffic. We wouldn't be financially supporting them. So I sort of understand both sides of this, and I like Jasmine's compliment.
All right, Rahul.
So one thing I want to ask, like, why the current model is not working for the food drive for the graduate students? Like, I see that like almost every Friday, like there are huge line for getting the free food from the campus pantry. But
I mean, you can say that like not many graduate students know, but what we can do from our side that we can inform the graduate students about this thing. It's not necessary that we have to give them more money to them for the service that we already have. So
I would just say that if we convince more graduate students to go to the food pantry and there are therefore more food people at the food pantry and those lines are even longer, then yes, they're going to need more money. That's just the name, that's just how it's going to go. So, and I'm also saying that because, like, I actually take a different tack from Megan when she's saying, oh, it's all up in the air, we might not know what's going on. That's the exact moment when they need more money, frankly, in my opinion. So, I want to call the question on moving this down to $1,500, leaving the GC discretionary funds. This is Jasmine's sort of thing. So so we just move this down to $1,500 with the proviso that this $3,000 might go to them in the future if necessary. Is that clear? It's been seconded. So.
Can I make an amendment?
Okay.
Offer an amendment.
Maybe. What is it?
I was thinking that instead of 3,000, we increase GC discretionary funds to 5,000. Because looking at the numbers, I think that we have about $2,000 extra. We fill that with GC discretionary funds, and then they can decide if they want to spend more money.
Okay, that's okay. So moving to $1,500 in the campus pantry and $5,000 in GC discretionary funds.
I second the secondary motion.
Okay. So now is everyone clear on what we're doing?
We have to vote on the secondary amendment.
Yeah, we're gonna have to vote twice. So voting once to take Dustin's amendment and apply it to retroactively to that first motion. Placards up, please. Ayes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Any nays? One nay, I think. Danielle? Nay?
Yeah,
One nay.
because it gives the GC more like discretionary funds to decide to do it, and if we really feel passionately about campus pantry, then
Yeah.
that's not all I did.
Any abstentions? 1 nay, 4 abstentions, 5 abstentions, 6 abstentions. All right, so passed. I concur with Danielle that we should have just given the money to the pantry, but that's just me.
We have to vote in the original
Yeah,
motion.
well, it's too late now. We're moving on.
Well,
So,
No, we have to vote on it. We just saw the motion on the table.
sorry.
Yeah.
We just voted to
Wait.
modify.
We voted to modify the original thing, sorry.
It's all right.
So, now we have to vote to actually we've accepted the amendment, now we have to actually vote to pass the amendment as Dustin articulated it. $1,500 for the food pantry, $5,000 for GC discretionary funds. So raise your placards if you say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 ayes. Any nays? 1 nay. Any abstentions? 1 abstention. 5 abstentions. Alright, that's how it goes. Dustin, I expect the next, not just Dustin, I expect the next GC will actually help the food pantry next year, but that's all I can say on that. Alright, if I'm not mistaken, we're balanced?
We are balanced, but we
Okay.
need to approve some minor changes I made.
Okay.
I can do that alone. Few changes you'll notice is I've asked to increase out-of-state travel from $7,500 to $10,000, and also increase marketing funds from $5,000 to $6,000, which was what we actually had this year, if I recall.
Alright, so we'll start with one at a time. So travel, which is somewhere, sorry.
Number
moving-
73.
I think administrative compensation is the first purple.
I'm sorry. We're doing travel because that's the thing we brought up first. So, here. National travel, this year we had $7,500. As we've all noticed, we've had problems with that $7,500 because we couldn't bring non-GBSE people to things. So, Jude wants to move it to 10,000.
Additionally, we couldn't even take GPSC people to things. There is some money left over. Nobody's responded about potentially going to Western Regional except for Jessie, who has said that if nobody else is interested, she would like to go. So here's your chance if you're interested. in
Spokane,
going to Western-
Washington.
Yep, to Spokane for like 48 hours at the end of April, which is right before finals. Here's your chance. Send me an email if you were interested. I need to know ASAP. There's about $900 left over. I did send out the budget. I don't know if anybody saw it for out-of-state travel. We were able to save $150 because we came back early on Monday because of Snowpocalypse Fluid. And United offered us to change our flights for free, so we saved some money there, and we were very frugal in DC. I think collectively we spent $300 on per diem for Friday to Monday evening in travel, which I don't think is terrible, including all transportation, etc. So we saved a lot of money that way that we weren't really sure what was going to happen because we were told to budget more, right? So I think that the national travel, we can get by with $7,500 again, but last year the budget proposed was $15,000 and that was cut in half to $7,500, and that's what left us. This is just me speaking as the person in charge of this. I would have liked to have taken more of you showed interest than we were able to actually take, and I still regret that, knowing what I know now. But yeah, I would second the $10,000 unless anybody is opposed for any specific reasons.
Not opposed to $10,000. Just a question: why did we separate them into national and in-state travel? Is there a particular reason?
We just did that.
We just
don't
do
need
that?
to. We can absolutely just recollapse
Could
that.
we collapse it back? I mean, I'm for moving it up to $10,000, but I'm also for collapsing it and just having a travel fund of $1,250.
Well, if I had known that and we didn't necessarily have it allocated this year, then we probably could have pulled for funds for
This is what I'm
fund.
considering.
So yeah, no, I did not propose it this way,
Yeah.
so I think that that's a friendly amendment to whatever Jude just proposed.
Alright, so it was actually Storm, Jude, and then Raul.
Did we ever, I know I asked this question, I think it was when you and Jesse first came back, we have a means of quantifying the value outside of $10,000 value, what we're getting back as a student government organization out of these trips. I understand, and I perhaps I didn't communicate this question because of how I asked it. I understand that you got a lot more interest in doing national travel than Jessie did when she tried to do her capital events. So obviously state travel gets a very low amount of interest, national travel gets a high amount. I think there's a reason for that. I think it's very obvious. People want to take advantage of the funding that's available. What is the actual merit of this? You know, I think we should keep it separate, national and state, because we should be allocating more to trying to do things in our state government. We have the Board of Regents, and if we're trying to effectively lobby, they're directly impacting our school. Our representatives are voting on laws in our state that are directly, you know, for one like our budget, the state budget, that's directly impacting our school. National events are great. I'm sure it's a lot of fun to go on them. I don't know that we have a direct correlation. I can trace a direct line from we go up and we meet with representatives of our House and our Senate, and they vote on the budget, and that budget impacts money that's available for our university. I can draw a straight line there that is not so attenuated. I understand that there's national education policy that is set. Those representatives have offices here in the state. Senators have offices in the state. Our congressional representatives do. We can lobby them here. I don't know. I don't support us spending more money on national travel when we're not spending enough on state, and when we're not able to produce not so overly attenuated causal connections to how the money actually comes back and is impacting what our mission here is as a student government.
Jude?
If I respond to that real quick, unfortunately advocacy is not something that you can quantify financially in many instances. And a lot of things that you do may not have immediate impact on this thing, but it may take a while to actually achieve them and have impact in the next 3 or 4 years. Now that said, I've been to a lot of this travel, and I definitely advocate for having these funds. Part of the reason is when we travel out of state, we get a good connection and relationship with other student governments across the country. We know what they're doing, and a lot of times we come back to our council and implement some new ideas that honestly we just borrow those ideas from other student organizations. So I definitely ask that we maintain our relationship with NAGPS and continue to travel out of state. I've seen the benefits. Those who traveled recently, Jesse and Daniel can speak to that as well. I'm sure that they also saw the benefit of traveling out of state and having that advocacy at the national level. And lastly, I like to keep that in-state budget the way it is, and not lump them up together. Part of the reason for that is it's good for us to know how much maximum we expected to spend on these two different things. Like Storm mentioned already, I think there are different things in some ways. Going to national conferences and advocating within the states should have a separate budget item, so we don't end up spending everything on nationals, which would be the temptation once we lump them all together.
Alright, give me Raul and then I'll speak and then Dustin.
Just a quick question, if we collapse both of them, will we still need 12,500 or will it be 11,000?
I mean, we could still operate with national travel at 7,500 for next year. I think that would be absolutely fine. I would say though that we need to make sure that people, because part of the thing is money from that people spent last fiscal year was applied to this fiscal year, which then on top of people us having to cut the budget, that tremendously affected what we were able to do in terms of travel at the national level. So, I mean, I think that we could get by with 7,500 for national travel and reduce this overall down to,
$10,000.
yeah, roughly, yeah, so.
I'm going to push back against the idea that advocacy is a thing that can be quantified at all, ever. The idea that because we met with a person, then we can definitely draw a relationship between that meeting that we had with this person to some sort of enacted legislation, and we don't actually have legislation for them to jump on and vote for. I mean, we don't have legislation, we're not legislators, we don't write legislation. So the idea, unless we can say, we want you to vote on this, and they do, that's basically the only quantification that we can come up with. And I am, as a humanist, as a humanities scholar, I'm against quantification just in general. The other thing I want to say is that the point at which we stop doing national travel is the point at which we concede the national argument. We are the University of Arizona. We are the flagship university of this state. If the worst state in the whole union can't be bothered to show up, then why should they pay attention to us in the slightest? We're already 50th in so many different things. I don't want to be 50th in advocation too. All right, it's going to be Dustin, Jasmine, Storm, and then Jared.
So I'm gonna say I'm against increasing it, I think. But I wanna know though, like how much did we spend in last year? How much what did we spend?
Do you want to pull up the email?
Did you send an email to everybody?
I sent an email to everybody.
All right,
It was
Dustin,
the
can you-
marketing and the out-of-state travel
Dustin, can you
updated Excel
just-
sheet with spending through LAB.
Yeah. Dustin, can you just look at that and send
Yeah.
us? Okay. Jasmine.
I'm gonna move that we increase national travel, okay, sorry, I'm gonna move that we increase the total travel budget to 12,500. Don't divide it out by state versus national, because who knows what next year's council is gonna wanna focus on. And since apparently this year, dividing it rigidly like this caused some problems, I would like to just save next year's council that heartache. But also, I would like to point out that in addition to the benefits of lobbying for like our constituents, individual people who can go to these lobbying events can benefit professionally by having this firsthand experience that they wouldn't be able to get any other way, because they probably would not be able to get a travel grant to go to NAGPS Legislative Action Days if they're not part of GPSC. So I would say this is a good chance for us to put aside some extra money for a very specific type of professional development that we don't currently have that much support for, so that next year people can take advantage of that. That is my motion.
Okay, and then it's going to be Storm.
Oh, she made a motion, do we need to?
Well, someone does, unless someone seconds
Wasn't
it.
there already a motion on the table?
There kind of was,
There
but then we
was.
started
No one-
discussing
No one
things, so.
seconded anything, as
So-
far as I'm aware.
My motion is, make travel 12,500, don't divide it out.
Yeah, so that's a motion. No one seconded it, so Storm.
I'm about to.
Yeah, I think, you know, again, I think I definitely push back on the assertion that you cannot quantify or point to results. Work that Danielle and I did with SSFAB today, or this year on behalf of GPSC can be most certainly quantified in the fact that it communicated clear priority for GPSC and what our application priorities were. Jude's absolutely free to disagree with me, but I think Danielle will support me on it. I think that it made discussions with Melissa Vito more successful on his behalf, because we had multiple people telling him about what our programs were, how they were important, how they were impacting people. So again, national travel is great. Jude indicated, you can build these relationships with the other student governments, and you can communicate and share ideas. You can do that over a telephone call. You can do that over an email. You can connect with those people if you want to. I think this is, again, I think we have this consistent problem. This is another one we allocate resources to kind of benefit ourselves directly and not our programs that serve the entire city. But I don't, and please, if you wouldn't mind answering, you said, Jasmine, you said that someone could take advantage of this travel fund to go to the national event, but that wouldn't be an option for them through travel grants to our regular
It's
college
highly
program?
unlikely that that would get approved.
Why is that?
They'd have to demonstrate how it is, going to this affects their
It's not even just
professional
that, honestly.
development specifically.
Not even just that, because we have random people as judges. We have had people get rejected for travel grants just because they are not going to a conference, because random judges don't understand that it's not just for conference travel.
But Janelle's also changing the system for next year.
Well, she hasn't changed it yet.
Either way. So your assumption is that it's unlikely that someone would recognize the value of it.
It's unlikely that people would realize that they are allowed to approve travel that is not for a conference because random graduate students are travel grants judges.
May I give a suggestion? If you don't want to see the floor, it's fine. But for example, I'm a medical student, and if I did a travel grant, like I want to go lobby for GPSC because lobbying is an important part of being a doctor, I think a lot of people would be like, that has nothing to do with medicine or science, to go to DC and meet with the senator. You just want a photo, denied. But actually a lot of things are going on. Like I just got an email from the Arizona Medical Association about 6 different bills. They're on the floor right now in the House, and so it's very important to be involved, but it may not be recognized. So I think it's coming to no argument, but you're free to disagree with me both of you.
What's the number?
I'm sorry.
That wouldn't benefit, that wouldn't get,
People
you're
wouldn't
saying
see. Someone saw that application and
why
they
is a
said-
med student going to meet with a senator in Washington? This has nothing to do with medicine, it's not a medical conference, like they would bosh.
Yeah, I think that we should be looking equally as critically at this. We should be looking equally as critically at our $10,000 or $7,500 budget and seeing why are we spending this? What is it actually providing us? Again, we have a lot of staples that we can be funneling money to. Other than saying, I understand it is important, you want to have a voice in the conversation. Our representatives are here that we send to DC, we can see them here. Our representatives are the state capitol, we can see them here, we can be spending money here. People don't want to do that because it's not as glamorous and it's not as much of a, hey, get a trip on GPSC's dime to DC.
Okay, sorry, Alma, you have.
Sorry, I just have one quick thing. I and Jesse, both of us work in politics outside of this in real life, like working with elected officials. My brother serves in the state house, and it is extremely, extremely important when students from our university actually meet with the representatives, because they make our laws in the state of Arizona. Whether we like it or not, they decide what happens with our budget, what happens with increase in our tuition. So if we really want to make a difference, you start at the local level. I love going to conferences as well because I get to network, but I think it's really important that if we want to engage students, we're actually responding to Jesse and saying, hey, I can go and do this, or make a call. All it is a call, because when there's a bill on the floor and they don't receive any calls from their constituents, guess what happens? They don't care. They're like, oh, no one called, so I'm going to do whatever I want. And I know that some people think it doesn't make a difference, but it definitely does, because when they get those calls and when it's more than 10 people calling, they actually think about things. Well, sort of, but yes. No, seriously, I just wanted to say that because it's so important.
All right, it's going to be Jude, Jared, and Austin.
We're running out of time for this meeting.
Yeah.
I'd like to move to close the debate on this issue. My motion or amendment to Jasmine's motion would be to do travel at $12,500. It's still a cut to what we had 2 years ago, and leave it as different budget item. And the reasoning for that is, if you make it all together, people will be more inclined to do out-of-state travel and ignore the in-state travel advocacy that we need to do. So we need to have that budget item for that as well. So approve this as it is, that a motion.
Second.
Point of appeal, we made 2 motions, close debate 1 and then second to actually approve, right?
I'm sorry.
Jude made 2 motions. He moved to close debate, and then he moved to, he made an actual motion.
I think that was a request to close debate.
Yeah, I don't think he actually moved to close debate, because, well, one, no one seconded it, so it's not relevant.
We had to
But,
stop talking.
I'd like to move to close the debate on this.
Yeah,
Okay,
It's a
so we have a motion to close debate.
Second.
Second, all right, so I hands in the air if you want to close debate on this issue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Any nays? Any abstentions? 3. Debate closed.
Now making an amendment to Jasmine's motion to approve the 12,500 for travels, but leave it the way it is as in-state and out-of-state travel separated.
Is that acceptable to you, Jasmine?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, so I second, or whatever. So can we just approve this with $10,000 for national travel and $2,500 for state travel? Hands in the air, please. Placards in the air. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ayes. Any nays? Let's see. 4, 5, 6, 7 nays. Any abstentions? 3 abstentions. So, motion carries. $10,000 for national travel, $2,500 for state travel for the next year.
Motion to approve $6,000 for marketing for fiscal year.
Is that what we have this year?
What we had is, yes, that's what we had this year.
I thought we had 5 this year.
Was it 5 or 6?
Whatever, it's in the Excel sheet, it's not.
All right, so, Jerry.
Point of information, will this still be balanced if we pass this?
Yes, I think we still have.
It's currently
I would
balanced with all the purple numbers as is.
I just want to try and emphasize that for the council as I second this motion.
Okay. So, motion seconded. Is there anything else anyone wants to say? All right. Tigers in the air for $6,000 for marketing. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Ayes. Any nays? Abstentions? 5, 7 abstentions. All right. So, motion passes. $6,000 for marketing. I move that we move on from this budget item.
I think we have 2 more items.
We have 13 minutes and we have to get other stuff done. So unless we're gonna do it really quickly, like what is it that we're looking at?
Director of Legislative Affairs.
And to approve
Okay.
whether or not one half 15,000 for the week, and that's all.
All right.
Motion to approve everything.
Okay.
Okay, motion to
That's
approve.
gonna put us over budget real
Yeah,
quick.
real
No,
quick.
it's not gonna, we're already balanced if we approve these things.
Okay. I have a motion to approve $15,000 for REAP.
Can we see the fine, like the bottom?
Hold on.
Bottom?
$194 under budget.
That's amazing. All right. $15,000 for REAP.
I have a question.
Justin.
So, Jude, why did you move that from research grants?
What?
From research grants?
It's not we're not moving.
Did you cut the research grants by 15,000 to that?
No, I did not cut that. It was just a math error. The line item 95 was a new addition. It's already accounted for. If you look at the sum, it's already accounted for. So including it again under research grants, you're adding it twice. That's just a mathematical.
All right. So did I hear a second? I heard a motion to approve. All right. Second. $15,000 additional funding for REAP. Can I get placards out, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Ayes. Any nays? 1 nay. Any abstentions? 5 abstentions. All right. Great. And then,
Legislative
Last
Affairs,
one was the-
Administrative Compensation.
yeah, legislative, Director of Legislative Affairs.
That's gonna put us over budget.
No,
No.
it's
No,
not.
it's
This
not.
is fine. It's
Motion is-
we're not doing the GA. We're moving it from $4,000 to $5,000.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
Sorry.
motion.
I thought we were still on the
No,
GA.
we're additionally adding $1,000 to Legislative Affairs Director.
Second.
Second that motion.
I thought all directors have had GA shifts.
Yeah, well, I'm not in charge of naming things, unfortunately. So, I have second. Can I get ayes for $1,000 additional dollars to Legislative Affairs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 ayes. Any nays? Any abstentions?
Last
3
motion.
3 abstentions.
What?
Are you abstaining? Jude, are you abstaining or not?
No.
Okay,
Yes.
3 abstentions. Are you abstaining or not?
Voting yes to the increase.
What? Okay, whatever. Motion passes. It doesn't. It's not relevant. Motion
Last
passes.
motion, please. To approve this budget for fiscal year 18, 19, is that a year? 17, 18?
17, 18.
17, 18. All right, so motion to approve this budget as written, 17, 18. I need a second. Second. Ayes, please. 5, 8, 10, 13, 15, 17, 19 ayes. Any nays? Any abstentions? 4 abstentions. All right. So, great. Awesome.
Motion passes?
Motion passes. Budget passes. All right, so I move that we move into executive session for the remainder of the.
Second.
All right, can I get ayes for executive session? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 ayes. Any nays? Any nays? 2 nays. Any abstentions? 3 abstentions. All right, I'm going to ask any guests or non-GPSC representatives to leave the room. Staff, you're welcome to stay, but I encourage you to leave.
Staff has to leave during executive session?
Okay, staff members don't
You
have.
have 5. Just for the record, you have 5 abstentions.
Okay.
There's no that 2 more.
That's fine. 5 abstentions. They don't have to leave, but I'm asking them to just as a courtesy for everybody else. Executive session passes. If anyone